Viktor Navorski arrives at a New York airport from his home country of Cracovia, carrying a can of Planters nuts and a Fodor's guidebook. However, while Viktor is in transit, a military coup occurs in Cracovia, rendering his passport and visa invalid, effectively making him a man without a country. Customs and Border Protection Director Frank Dixon informs Viktor that he cannot enter the US or return home. Frustrated by the situation, Viktor attempts to understand his predicament, questioning the possibility of visiting New York City and struggling with the pronunciation of his homeland's name. Dixon explains that Viktor doesn't qualify for asylum and is considered inadmissible. Dixon provides Viktor with food vouchers, a pager, and instructions to remain in the International Transit Lounge. Ultimately, Viktor is trapped in a bureaucratic limbo, stuck in the terminal with America closed to him. Despite being confined to the transit lounge, Viktor observes news reports detailing the turmoil in Cracovia, highlighting the severity of his situation. He attempts to enter the United Red Carpet Club but is denied access. Left to navigate his new reality, Viktor is seen looking at the New York calling card while attempting to make sense of his immigration paperwork, and later is involved in an incident with a woman's broken luggage. Stranded in the terminal, Viktor Navorski scavenges for sustenance, supplementing his Planters peanuts with crackers and condiments. He adapts to his situation by disassembling chairs to create a makeshift bed in a dilapidated holding area. Viktor's simple act of waving at a departing plane with his can of mixed nuts in hand draws the ire of Director Dixon, who briefly suggests Viktor just leave, but rescinds the order. He is denied entry at passport control again. Dixon offers Viktor a 5-minute window of opportunity to leave when security is lax, revealing a security lapse and urging Viktor to leave, promising 5 minutes of open access to America. Viktor pointedly refuses and calls attention to himself by tampering with a security camera, thwarting Dixon's plan and making his continued presence undeniable. During his time in the terminal, Viktor helps Amelia Warren when she falls, returning her shoe heel and directing her to a shoe store, then watching the escalators after their interaction. Meanwhile, a luggage master, Gupta, grows suspicious of Viktor, believing him to be a CIA spy. Viktor Navorski is stuck in the airport and earns quarters by returning luggage carts to purchase Burger King meals. Director Dixon and other customs officers watch Viktor with amusement. Viktor starts working as the transportation liaison. He befriends Aero Gourmet employee Enrique Cruz, who proposes a deal. Viktor should ask Customs Officer Torres personal questions in exchange for favors. Viktor, wanting to gain Torres's favor so she will approve his visa, reluctantly agrees. However, when Viktor approaches Torres with the questions about love and choices, she becomes suspicious and denies his request. Misunderstanding the English language, Viktor misuses vulgar terms while asking Torres the questions, and his clumsy attempts backfire, resulting in Torres stamping denied on a document. Enrique tries to correct Viktor's English. Despite the setbacks, Viktor's situation draws sympathy from some airport staff, and he receives food from passport control. A passport control officer claims to have figured out a way to get Viktor to New York, but a customs officer thwarts this by informing Viktor he will be taken to New York, but under a removal process that has a 6-month backlog for a court date. After being denied entry by customs, Viktor is stuck in the airport. A customs agent tries to get Viktor to claim a credible fear of returning to his country, but Viktor refuses to lie, frustrating the agent when he only admits to fearing the airport holding room. Viktor encounters Amelia Warren, a flight attendant, overhears her emotional phone call, and tries to ask her out, but she declines, though she does give him her card. Viktor sees a help wanted sign, attempts to find work, and eventually joins a construction crew, repairing a bathroom wall. He finds camaraderie with the crew and begins playing cards with items scavenged from the baggage conveyors. When questioned about the contents of his nut can, Viktor reveals it contains just jazz. Viktor's colleagues gamble for lingerie found at the airport. Later, at the bookstore, Viktor buys a book on Napoleon, and Amelia apologizes for her past behavior, sharing the story of Napoleon's failed suicide attempt. Amelia is paged to work and abruptly tells Viktor to stay away from her. Dixon then seeks Viktor's help translating for a distressed Ukrainian immigrant at customs. The immigrant is resistant and clutching 4 bottles of medicine needed for his sick father, whose last name is Goat. Customs officials initially want to confiscate the medication due to paperwork issues, but Viktor intervenes, explaining the man's predicament and the meaning of goat in Crocozia. Despite facing pressure from a customs officer and risking his own standing, Viktor persuades Dixon to eventually allow the man to enter with the medicine. The segment ends with Gupta recounting the story of someone at immigration who stood up for the Ukrainian immigrant, preventing violence and proclaiming, "Nobody will die today," implicitly connecting Viktor's actions to a larger sense of moral courage. Dixon, frustrated and threatened by Viktor's actions, later confronts him and makes copies of his hands, implying further harassment. Gupta, recognizing Viktor in the customer service area, reveals he left his family in India to escape police extortion. Viktor attempts to bribe director Dixon with a decorative fish to allow him to go to New York, but Dixon refuses and reiterates his ban. Frustrated, Viktor throws away the fish and walks out. Viktor learns Amelia will be arriving in 3 weeks and plans to meet her, discussing the matter with his ramp service friends. Gupta warns Viktor about flight attendants. Viktor buys new clothes and meets Amelia for a romantic cannelloni dinner at the airport. Amelia reveals she's been waiting for a phone call for 7 years and is conflicted. After a disrupted dinner, Amelia confesses she has been waiting for a call from a former lover. Viktor encourages her to move on, and they throw her pager away together. However, Amelia's flight is then cancelled, delaying their next meeting by 13 days. Disappointed, they share a kiss. Viktor helps Enrique Cruz secure a marriage by performing favors, fixing urinals and salvaging a mosaic display. In return, Enrique uses a contact in Washington to get a travel visa for someone, unaware of the complications it will cause. Officer Torres, processing the visa documents, recognizes the recipient, raising suspicion. Director Dixon questions Amelia about her relationship with Viktor, but she insists they are merely friends. Viktor shows Amelia a photo from his luggage, a memento from a jazz festival in Harlem connected to his father. Officer Torres arrives, presenting Amelia with the old photograph, deepening the mystery. He reveals the mosaic fountain he's been building is a promise to his father. He shows her old jazz albums and the photograph, further revealing his past. Finally, Viktor declares he waited for Amelia, revealing the depth of his feelings. News breaks of peace in Crocozia. Viktor, emboldened, urges Amelia to take his passport and they embrace. Later, Amelia Warren arrives at the airport, greets someone, and walks through the terminal. Viktor is at the U.S. Customs desk, where Dolores Torres tells him that his paperwork is not signed. Viktor's unsigned visa leads to his detention, and Director Dixon presents his passport and plane tickets. Director Dixon is notified and recounts his new position as CBP Field Commissioner. However, due to the renewed war in Crocozia, the passport is no longer valid. Dixon orders an officer to escort Viktor to his flight home, but Viktor refuses to go back and insists on going to New York. Dixon warns him against causing trouble, revealing he intends to make examples of airport employees like Joe Mulroy, Enrique Cruz, and Gupta Raha. As Viktor is led back into the terminal, Enrique and another man try to rally support, while Gupta calls Viktor a coward for not fighting to stay. The customs officer who confronted Gupta takes him into custody after Gupta yells insults at Viktor. The situation escalates with sirens and airport personnel watching on monitors. Suddenly, cars and police surround Viktor on the tarmac. An officer presents Viktor with a saxophone, and a black officer embraces him while Director Dixon watches, frustrated. Later, workers, including Enrique and Dolores, express their sorrow and offer support to Viktor before his departure. Customs and Border Protection agents are upset and Viktor is escorted through the airport, eventually walking outside in the snow to a taxi. Viktor watches Amelia Warren arrive and get on a bus before he departs in his taxi. Director Dixon stands at the airport entrance with officers, watching the taxi pull away. Viktor is dropped off at the Ramada Inn and asks about the lobby lounge. Viktor arrives at the jazz club where he meets the band leader. At the Ramada Inn, the band plays with Viktor watching. Viktor Navorski leaves the Ramada Inn on a snowy night in New York City, carrying a can of Planters mixed nuts and a Benny Golson jazz show card. He hails a taxi and gets in, showing the driver the Benny Golson card. When the driver asks for his destination, Viktor simply replies, "I am going home." The taxi then drives off into the city, its license plate visible as it merges into traffic.